We're back here at the 2018 Equity and Diversity Conference, and we're joined here by our first ever social justice keynote speaker, Dr. D.L. Stewart. Dr. Stewart, welcome to Denton, Texas.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So we're just going to jump into the questions.
Okay.
So some of the breadth of your experience includes advocacy for trans communities.
Yep.
And some of the most basic work around trans equity and justice includes using and understanding the importance of pronouns. For those of us that may be unfamiliar, can you share some of the importance of pronouns and
Sure.
using them correctly?
Sure. And I'll clarify that it's the importance of using the proper pronoun, the appropriate pronoun for the person you're referencing, right? And so we don't use pronouns when we're talking to the person that, right? So I wouldn't be speaking to you and use pronouns of reference, right? One of the things that I think is part of the conversation around this issue is how little focus is put on grammar education as we go through school, right? And so we forget that we've been using pronouns since we were 2. Right? To reference other people, to reference our parents, to reference siblings, whoever, we've been using pronouns to reference people all of our lives. The issue is that we have been taught to assume, and our pronouns are all gendered, right? For the most part, unless we're talking in the plural. Right. So we've been taught that they, them, or their, so they, the subject of a sentence, them, the object of a sentence, they're the possessive in the sentence, right? We've been taught that that's plural. So we use that when there are groups of people that we're referring to, them over there, right? We've been taught that he, him, his, she, her, hers, that they're gendered pronouns that are evident on the body, right? That gender is apparent on the body. And so we know whether to use she, her, hers, or he, him, his to reference someone based on what we think their gender is, based on what they look like to us, right? And so when we're talking about being trans cognizant, not just even trans inclusive, but trans aware, right, of the reality that there are people in the world who, one, don't identify necessarily within a strict binary of either as a man or as a woman, that there are people for whom their gender is not clearly written on their body. So I heard earlier today someone say, clearly I'm a woman. Well, no, actually, there's nothing clear about that, okay? Because people would assume that I'm clearly a woman and I'm not, okay? And so to disrupt the presumption that we already know someone's gender, we should ask, what is the proper gender pronoun? What are the proper gender pronouns I should use for you, right? As part of the introduction, we ask somebody's name. We don't presume we know someone's name, right? You look like Kimberly. What does that mean, right?
Right.
Like that, but my name is Shani, right? And so it's the same way with pronouns. Right? Where we would not assume we know someone's name without asking. We should not assume we know someone's pronouns, proper pronouns, without asking, which also means we don't necessarily, should not assume that because we know someone's proper gender pronouns that we know what their gender is either. Right?
Say more about that.
Sure. So might say someone, for instance, who's a trans woman, uses she, her pronouns. The fact that you know that she uses she, her pronouns does not tell you that she's a cis woman or a trans woman. You don't know that. Someone who uses she, her pronouns may still identify as non-binary. Okay, a non-binary or genderqueer trans person, but they use quote unquote normative pronouns, right? So we don't know. Right? Knowing the pronouns just means that you are able to properly reference the person you're talking to. Right? Instead of making assumptions about that and ending up dishonoring and really dehumanizing someone,
So it's really affirming their personhood is what you're saying.
Exactly. And so when people refuse to use someone's proper gender pronouns, even after they've been told, it's a sign that you claim that you know more about that person than they do about themselves. It's not affirming their personhood, and it's dehumanizing.
Thank you for that clarification.